Chanting, and we'll chant from chapter 1, verse 21 through 32. What's it? That we'll do first. We'll just start with Om Parthaya, and then we'll the introductory verse, but then we'll start with verse 21. भारताय प्रतिबोधितां भगवता नारायणेन स्वयं व्यासेन ग्रथितां पुराणमुनिना मध्ये महाभारतम् अद्वैतामृतवर्षिणीं भगवतीम् अष्टादशाध्यायिनीम् अम्ब त्वाम् अनुसन्दधामि भगवद्गीते भवद्वेषिणीम् वसुदेवसुतं देवं कंसचाणूरमर्दनं देवकी परमानन्दं कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरुं मूकं करोति वाचालं पङ्गुं लङ्घयते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे परमानन्दमाधवम् अर्जुन उवाच सेनयोरुभयोर्मध्ये रथं स्थापयमेच्युत यावदेतान्निरीक्षेऽहं योद्धुकामानवस्थितान् कैर्मया सह योद्धव्यम् अस्मिन् रणसमुद्यमे युत्स्यमानानवेक्षेऽहं य एतेऽत्र समागताः धर्तराष्ट्रस्य दुर्बुद्धेः युद्धे प्रियचिकीर्षवः सञ्जय उवाच एवमुक्तो ऋषिकेशो गुडाकेशेन भारत सेनयोरुभयोर्मध्ये स्थापयित्वा रथोत्तमम् भीष्मद्रोणप्रमुखतः सर्वेषां च महीक्षिताम् उवाच पार्थ पश्यैतान् समवेतान् कुरुनिति तत्रापश्यत् स्थितान् पार्थ पितॄन् पितामहान् आचार्यान् मातुलान् भ्रातॄन् पुत्रान् पौत्रान् सखींस्तथा श्वशुरान् सुहृदश्चैव सेनयोरुभयोरपि तान् समीक्ष्य स कौन्तेय सर्वान् बन्धूनवस्थितान् कृपया परयाविशिष्टो विषीदन्निदमब्रवीत् अर्जुन उवाच दृष्ट्वेमं स्वजनं कृष्ण युयुत्सुं समुपस्थितं सीदन्ति मम गात्राणि मुखं च परिशुष्यति वेपतुश्च शरीरे मे रोमहर्षश्च जायते गण्डीवं स्रंसते हस्तात् त्वक्चैव परिदह्यते न च शक्नोम्यवस्थातुं भ्रमतीव च मे मनः निमित्तानि च पश्यामि विपरीतानि केशव न च श्रेयोनुपश्यामि हत्वा स्वजनमाहवे न काङ्क्षे विजयं कृष्ण न च राज्यं सुखानि च किं नो राज्येन गोविन्द किं भोगैर्जीवितेन वा. So we'll begin with the text where we left off last time, and that was in the first chapter, the 32nd verse. So you know the background, I don't need to go over that Arjuna has, and that's what we chanted just now, was the 10 or 11 verses before this 32nd verse, in which Arjuna asks Sri Krishna to move his chariot into the middle of the battlefield. And so Sri Krishna moves the chariot into the middle, right in front of Bhishma, Drona, and other great warriors on the opposing side, and says, look, see those with whom you're to fight. And then, as you know, Arjuna comes undone. His nerves come undone. He sees what it is that battle has brought him to. As I said last time, it's one thing to conceptually think, oh yes, I'm going to fight. It's another thing to actually be face to face with those that you're going to fight and know that now the battle is beginning. The conch shells have already been blown on both sides. They're all ready to go. They're, as it were, rattling their sabers, ready to fight. And so then Arjuna sees what it is that he's really faced with. And so his nerves come undone. So in the 32nd verse, it says, and again, as always, you can chant with me when I chant a verse. I'll chant each verse first and then explain it. Na kangshe vijayam Krishna na cha rajyam sukhani cha kim no rajyena govinda kim bhogair jivitena va. Nakangshe vijayam Krishna. Oh Krishna, I don't want victory. I don't want victory. Here he's the commander of his army, the army of the Pandavas, the one on whom everyone is depending, even more than the elder brother Yudhishthira. Arjuna is the one that everyone depends on in battle. And he's saying, Nakangshe vijayam Krishna. I don't want victory. Nacha rajyam sukhani cha. I don't want kingdom. I don't want pleasures. I don't want any of this. Kim no rajyena govinda. What good is kingdom? What good is a kingdom, O Govinda? Kim bhogair jivitena va. What's the use of pleasures? What's the use of life itself? So here he's expressing the idea of renunciation. I don't want pleasure. I don't want kingdom. What's the use of all of that? What's the use of all of that? And he addresses Sri Krishna as Govinda, the controller of the senses. Because surely Sri Krishna, being the controller of the senses, will understand. So Arjuna knows that what he's saying is right. And he knows that what he's saying is dharma. And he knows that Sri Krishna, being the Lord of the universe, being the upholder of dharma, being the source of the Vedas themselves, certainly he will support him in this new insight he's gained. Before, yes, he's not hiding from the fact that before he wanted to fight. He came to the battlefield to fight, but now he's seen what it means. And he'll go on to explain what it means in these coming verses. So verse 33, Yesham arte kangshitam no rajyam bhoga sukhani cha taimeva sthita yuddhe pranan tyaktva dhanani cha. Yesham arte kangshitam no rajyam bhoga sukhani cha. Those for whom we want all of these things, those for whom we want kingdom, the enjoyments of life, happiness. Te ime avastita yuddhe pranans tyaktva dhanani. Here they are in front of us, ready to give up life and wealth itself. So those for whose sake we want kingdom, we want pleasure. So again, Arjuna is not faking it here. Arjuna is sincere and he's serious. He's not a selfish person. He's a person of dharma. So he's not even wanting kingdom and pleasures and all of that for himself. He wants it because who can enjoy pleasures all by themselves? Sri Ramakrishna mentions the selfish person who eats a mango and then wipes his face clean so nobody will see it and think that, oh, maybe I could have some too. No, let me enjoy it for myself. I haven't seen television for many, many years, except for occasionally when I pass in front of one somewhere. But I remember seeing some years ago an advertisement it was an advertisement for some sort of yogurt. And there was a woman, a mother, who was saying, this is just for me. That she had her kids and her husband and everything, that she was feeding different things, but this yogurt was so good that she was hiding it in the refrigerator. Of course, no Indian mother can ever understand that. That the mother is going to hide a good thing from her children just so that she can enjoy it by herself. So that's the ultimate selfishness, that I'm going to enjoy this all by myself. I don't even want my kids to know about this because it's just for me. So Arjuna was not like that. Arjuna was a man of dharma. So the very purpose of winning kingdom, the very purpose of having the pleasures of life and the joys of life was for the sake of his relations. For the sake of others. And so he's telling Sri Krishna that those for whom kingdom, the means of enjoyments and pleasures, are desired by us, those very ones stand arrayed for battle, risking their lives and wealth, ready to die, and ready to lose their wealth, ready to die, both for him and arrayed against him, because his people are on both sides of the battlefield. So whoever wins, they're risking life and wealth, whoever wins. And those on his side are risking it for his sake. We're risking life and pleasures for his sake. How can he enjoy pleasures? How can he enjoy living even, knowing that they died for his sake so that he could regain his kingdom? So even if he's successful, even if he wins the kingdom, how is it possible that he can enjoy things at such a high cost? And then he goes on, Acharya pitara putras tathaiva cha pitamahaha matula shvashura pautra shyala sambandhinas tatha. So here he names the people who are ready for battle. His acharya, the teachers, his uncles, his sons, and also grandfathers, maternal uncles, fathers-in-law, grandsons, brothers-in-law, as also relatives. All of these are ready to give up their lives and give up wealth, give up life itself for his sake. How can he enjoy, even if he wins? How is it possible? So then Madhusudana, in his commentary, he asks the question after this verse 34. He says, is it not that out of compassion, if you do not kill them, then these very persons will definitely kill you out of greed for kingdom? So you're in the position that if, okay, you don't fight, but then they're going to kill you. So then in answer to that, Arjuna says, Etanna hantumichami gnatopi madhusudanam apitrailokya rajyasya heto kim numhi krite. Etan Na hantum ichami. I don't wish to kill them. I don't wish to kill these people. Gnatopi Madhusudana. Oh Madhusudana, even if I am killed, I don't wish to kill these people even if I am killed. I'm ready to be killed. I'm ready to give up my life. I don't want to kill these people. So again, you see, Arjuna is appealing to Dharma. And again, we have to realize that he's sincere. He's not making this up. He's reached a crisis in his life where he sees the results of what he's going to do and knows that it's going to lead to massive destruction. And so how can he go through with the battle, seeing all of this? So, oh Madhusudana, he who killed the demon Madhu. The demon Madhu, he stole the Vedas from Brahma, Prajapati Brahma, Chaturmukhi Brahma, the four-headed Brahma, not Brahman. He stole the four Vedas come out of Brahma. He gives at the beginning of each cycle of creation the new Brahma. A new Brahma is elected, not by a democratic vote, but by the vote of his own karma. A new Brahma comes into being, a great soul from a previous cycle of creation, the most virtuous of all people who had not yet attained to full illumination, but become close, and was a person of greatest virtue, becomes the next Brahma in the new cycle of creation. And so he gives forth the four Vedas. So the demon Madhu stole them from Brahma, and Krishna was Madhusudan, the one who killed. Madhusudana Saraswati, this Madhusudana Saraswati, named after Madhusudan, he finds a reason why these different epithets are used for Krishna in different places. And so he says that here it's being used because Arjuna is making his appeal to Krishna, who is the one who saved Dharma, who saved the very Vaidika path, the Vaidika knowledge and path. He saved it for the world. And so certainly he knows the value of the Vedas and of following righteousness. So certainly he is going to side with Arjuna. So, O Madhusudana, even while we die by them in battle, I don't want to kill them even for the sake of a kingdom extending over the three worlds. Trailokya Rajasya. What to speak of doing so for the earth? What to speak of Mahikrite, for the sake of the earth? Nihatya dhartarashtrana kapriti syad janardana papamevashtraye dasman hatvaitanatatainaha. Nihatya dhartarashtran, having killed Dhartarashtran, the sons of Dhritarashtra, kapriti syad janardana. What joy can we have? How is joy possible if we have killed these who are our own cousins? Or, as you know, in India, cousins are called brothers. And so it's not just cousins, but cousins who are cousin brothers. So what happiness can we possibly have if we kill them? Papa mefa shrayedasman hatva etan atatainaha. These atatainaha, these criminals, these felons, these people who are in the wrong, Duryodhana and his brothers, he recognizes that yes, they are in the wrong. There's no question about that. They are felons. They are criminals. But the sin shall be ours for killing them. The sin will be on our shoulders for having killed them. So, Janardana, what happiness shall we derive by killing the sons of Dhritarashtra? Sin will certainly accrue to us by killing these felons. So, again, he's giving various arguments for why the battle should not go on. And here he recognizes again that yes, these are people who are in the wrong, but it's not right for us to kill. We should know better. They may be foolish, they may be blinded, but we should know better. Tasmanarha vayam hantum dhartarashtran swabandhavan swajanam hi katham hatva sukhina syama madhava. Tasmat na arha vayam hantum. Therefore, it's not proper for us to kill these sons of Dhritarashtra. It's not proper for us to kill these sons of Dhritarashtra, who are our own people, Swabandhavan. They're our own people, our own relatives. Swajanam hi katham hatva. Having killed our own people, Sukhinasyama Madhava. Oh Madhava, how can we be happy? Having killed our own people, how can we possibly be happy? So the argument goes on. And 38 he says, Yadye pide na pashyanti lobho pahata chetasaha kulakshaya kritam dosham mitra drohe chapatakam. So yadi api ete na pashyanti, even if these people don't see the truth, hata chetasaha, because their minds are clouded by greed, their minds are swept away by greed. So even if they don't see the truth, their minds are swept away by greed. And that is told in the story of the Mahabharata before the war begins, how they were so greedy that they wouldn't give even an inch of earth to the Pandavas. The Pandavas were ready to settle for just a village where they could live out their lives, though the kingdom should have been theirs. But Duryodhana said, no, I won't give you even an inch of land. So their minds were clouded by greed. Okay, that we understand. Their minds are clouded by greed, but why should we allow our minds to be clouded? So therefore so although these people whose hearts have become vitiated by greed do not see the evil arising from destroying the family and the sin and hostility towards friends, that's all, this verse is all a prelude to the next verse. They're connected as a sentence. So kulakshaya kritam dosham, the dosha, the fault, the sin of destroying the family. The sin of destroying the family, mitra drohe chapatakam, and the sin of mitra droha, the enmity between friends, mitra, the enmity between friends. So even if they are filled with greed and therefore can't see clearly, then verse 39, which completes the sentence, Katam nagneyam asmabhi papadasman nivartitum kulakshaya kritam dosham prapashyad bhir janardana. Katham nagneyam asmabhi. How is it that we don't know? Katham nagneyam asmabhi, by us. How is it that it's not known by us? Papadasman nivartitum. How is it that we don't see the way out of this sin? Kulakshaya kritam dosham. Again, this sin of destroying the family. Prapashyad bir janaranana. So yet how can we who clearly see the evil arising from destroying the family remain unaware of the need of abstaining from this sin? So yes, their minds are clouded. But we should be better than that. We shouldn't stoop to the level that they have. Their minds are clouded. Our minds should be clear. And it's clear that our dharma is not to kill our own people, because that is not going to lead to any good. Even if we win, we get back our kingdom, how can we enjoy it when we've killed our own people, including our gurus? The killing of a guru was one of the biggest sins that one could commit in the Vaidika path, in the Vaidika tradition. To kill your guru was one of the greatest of sins. And here they are arrayed in battle against their gurus. And so again, Arjuna is at a loss, because his path in life has brought him to this dilemma. So number 40, he says, Kulakshaye pranashyanti kula dharma sanatanaha dharme nashte kulam kritsnam adharmo bhibhavat yuta. So kulakshaye pranashyanti kula dharma sanatanaha. So the kula dharmas, that is the traditions of the family, which are sanatana, which means eternal, but it means which are handed down from ancient tradition. The Kula Dharma, the traditions of the family, the dharmic traditions of the family are handed down from time immemorial in an unbroken line from generation to generation. And so all of that is destroyed when the family is destroyed. If you wipe out a family line, which is what they were in danger of doing, and of course, as you know, it happened in the Mahabharata war. Many families were wiped out. The whole family line was wiped out. So wiping out the family line, the age-old traditions of the family are wiped out. Dharme nashte kulam kritsnam adharmo bhibhavat yuta. And if you wipe out if you wipe out the dharma of a family, you've wiped out the family itself. So when rights and duties are destroyed, vice overpowers the entire family also. Krishnam kulam adharmo abhibhavati. So the whole dharma of the family is destroyed, and vice overpowers the family. So again, Arjuna was seeing all of this clearly, seeing that the stakes that were confronting him. So in 41, he continues. Adharma bhibhavat Krishna pradushyanti kulastriyaha strishu dushtasu varshneya jayate varna sangaraha. So adharma bhibhavat Krishna pradushyanti kulastriyaha. So when vice predominates, adharma abhibhavat, from the predomination of adharma, or predominance of adharma, O Krishna, kulastriyaha pradushyanti, the women of the family line are destroyed. The dharma of the women of the family line are destroyed. Now that's a sentiment which is not popular among modern women, and not so much in India, but in the West. If you tell them that, well, why should we be held to a higher standard than men? Why is it that the dharma of women and the virtue of women is so important? And what about men? Well, yes, that's true. But in that is recognized the greater power of women, the greater power and the greater importance of women. And so it's not it shouldn't be seen as a limitation on women, that women should be virtuous, but men can do whatever they like. No, the idea is that society depends on women even more than it depends on men. That society depends, the goodness of society, the structure of society, and that we see is true. Some modern people may not like it, but the only thing not to like in it is putting more responsibility on women. But putting more responsibility on women is because it's recognized that they naturally have more power. One of the things that you see in India, it's not so visible because in India, until very recently, the family structure has been very strong. There, it's beginning to weaken also. But in the West, you can see it more clearly, where the family structure used to be strong, but here it's weakened much earlier than it is beginning to do in India. And there you see that when a man marries, that a great change comes over the man. One thing is that there's the enculturation of a man. That's why it's always been in all traditional societies, including in the West, until very recently, until the last several decades, since the 60s perhaps. It was recognized that marriage is an institution which is the foundation of society, and through marriage, a man becomes a complete person, and he learns sacrifice. He learns self-control, and he learns a sense of responsibility. That's why in all societies it was felt that a man who is single, unless he's devoted to religion, a man who is single is a danger to society. And so marriage was considered considered the strength of society, and the woman was considered to be the anchor of marriage and the anchor of the family. And so that is what Arjuna is referring to here. And it comes up again in the Gita in chapter 2. O Krishna, when vice predominates, the women of the family become corrupt. Well, what about the men? Well, yes, of course the men do. But if the women are virtuous, then they have the power to bring men onto the right path also. So the women of the family become corrupt, O descendant of the Vrishnis. When women become corrupted, it results in the intermingling of castes. Now that doesn't apply now, and that's why it applies, of course, that the mingling of castes, but the prohibition of the mingling of castes, that's no longer applicable. And that's why Swamiji said that a new Dharma Shastra is needed for the modern age. I remember once, because these things have changed in historical terms extremely rapidly in India. And such things were considered in the West also. People think that, well, the West doesn't have any of these traditions. No, the West had all of these traditions until recently, historically also. It's just that they gave them up before India has begun to give them up. I remember when I was living at Mayavati in the Himalayas back in the end of the 1970s when this particular incident happened. The head of the Advaita Ashrama at Mayavati at that time, the President Maharaj as we called him, was Swami Ananyananda Govinda Maharaj. And he was originally from Karnataka. And so one of his classmates was coming to see him. And the daughter of the classmate had married a man who was now the DM, the district magistrate in Pithoragarh. At that time, Mayavati fell under the district Pithoragarh. Now it's under district Champawat, but at that time it was under district Pithoragarh. And so his friend and his friend's wife and then their daughter and son-in-law all came and stayed at Mayavati for 2-3 days. And so he had a grand time because Nanyananji hadn't seen him for many years. So we get together with an old school friend and meeting his son and daughter. And the son-in-law being district magistrate for the district where our ashram lay was very important to the ashram also, because we often needed help at the district level for various things. So it was a very important sort of a state visit. And so Ananyananji had a good time. We all had a good time with their visit. And then I asked Ananyananji that, Maharaj, so the DM, he's also from Karnataka. And Ananji said, oh, you can't ask those questions nowadays. He's a Bengali. And of course he was very serious. He was very serious. So this was at the end of the 1970s. And oh my goodness, my friend had married a Bengali man. My friend's daughter married a Bengali man. It was just unthinkable. And he was ashamed even to tell it. So as you can see, that's at the end of the 1970s and how much things have changed now. And so such things were part of traditional society in India. And the reason why they were part, and again, not just India, it's a mistake to think that India had a very structured society and other societies were free and loose. No, free and loose society is a new thing in the West also. It started 100 years ago, 150 or 200 years ago. But historically speaking, it's new here also. And Swami Vivekananda said that there were advantages to that also, that each has its advantage. But the advantage to a structured society was that everybody had a sense of belonging. Yes, for the modern mind, it's difficult to think of because we think, well, why should somebody else define where I belong? Society is telling me where I belong, and I have to grow up and follow that. And that's true. But the modern problem is just the opposite. You don't know how many people come to me, especially Westerners, who come and say, Maharaj, where is my place in life? I don't know what I'm supposed to do. I don't know what my path is. I don't know who I am. And so both come with the disadvantages. So I'm not saying that one is good and the other is bad. Both have advantages and both have disadvantages. And so it's one of the problems that we face now is that many people, and this started in the West, so it's spreading, the expectation of perfection of the world. That what is the perfect society? You're not going to have a perfect society. Where has there ever been a perfect society? There hasn't been. You can point to Rama Rajya, the kingdom of Rama. Look at the problems that Rama faced. Look at the tremendous problems he faced and Sita faced. My goodness. So yes, Rama was an ideal person. His family members were ideal people. But society was a mess. So the perfection in the world, it doesn't happen. And so you trade one thing and you get another. You trade these problems for these problems. You trade these advantages for these advantages. And so in life, ordinary life, we have to muddle through the best that we can. That yes, we should work for the welfare of all people. We should work for the opportunity of all people. Let everybody have an opportunity to enjoy life. Let everybody have an opportunity to rise in life. Let everybody have an opportunity to have a voice in life. That's good, and that's one of the good things in modern society. But even that comes at a cost. So yes, that's the ethos of the modern world. Everybody wants that, and we can't go back, and we shouldn't go back. That Swami Vivekananda himself approved of that. He gave beautiful lectures in England on Vedanta and privilege, in which he said that Vedanta is against all privilege. Let everyone have a chance. Let the poor people rise up. Let them have a chance also. He said that in the future, Africa will have its day also. Other parts of the world have had their day. Now Russia and China are rising and so forth. But Africa will have its day also, and it should. Everybody should have their chance. Everybody should be able to lead a good life. So that's a good thing. But we recognize that still life is not going to be perfect. We'll have other problems instead of the old problems. Other problems will be there. But Swamiji felt it was time for a change. That every age brings advantages and disadvantages. And the advantage for the modern age is the impulse for democracy, the impulse for equality for all, the impulse for letting everybody have their chance in the sun. And that's a good thing. So again, that the time that Krishna lived in was a very, very different time. And the truths that he speaks, the truth is still a truth. But we have to interpret it according to the times now. Even Swami Trigunatitanandaji, the disciple of Sri Ramakrishna, who was in San Francisco for the last 12 years of his life, he died and was killed. One of the direct disciples who was killed by another, intentionally killed in San Francisco. He used to say that he used to promote, and I'm sure it was much to the shock of some of his peers back in India, he used to promote marriage between Indians and Americans. As he said that India and America, he felt, were two countries of destiny. And so he used to think that the mingling of the two populations would be of great benefit to both. So I don't have any opinion in the matter, but a great soul, Swami Trigunatitanandaji, used to believe that the great good would come out of the mingling of the two people. So verse 42 says, Sankaro narakaya eva kulagnanam kulasya cha patanti pitaro yesham lupta pindodaka kriyaha. So the intermingling in the family line, this Varna Sankara, this intermingling of the family line leads the ruiners of the family down to hell. So those who participate in the destruction of the family line, they are led directly to hell. Because why? Because they're destroying the foundation of society itself. And so Arjuna is saying that we don't want to be in that. We don't want to be the ones who effect the destruction of the family line. It leads to hell, and it also leads to hell on earth. The life here on earth itself will become hell because society will be destroyed, and it leads to the actual rebirth in hell. So the patanti pitaro hyesham lupta pindodaka kriya. So they become lupta pindaka. The pindas, the offerings, the pinda and udaka, the offerings made to the ancestors in the Shraddha ceremony, and the offerings of water and of pindas to the ancestors, then that will stop. And the traditional belief was that the ancestors depended on these offerings of their descendants, the living offerings of the descendants, giving the pindas, the balls of rice and sesamum, and water in order for their own well-being. You know, at the time of sannyasa, before we take our sannyasa, before we become swamis, just 2 days before, we do our own Shraddha ceremony. The day before sannyasa, we have to fast all day into the night until the ceremony. The day before that, we have to fast up until about 2:30 in the afternoon, because in the morning, for several hours, we have to do our own Shraddha ceremony, that is, funeral rites, traditional funeral rites. Because as a sannyasi, we won't have descendants, and so there'll be nobody to offer pindas for us. And so we offer Atma Pinda, we offer a Pinda for ourselves, and we offer Pindas for our ancestors, even for our living parents. A person like me, both of whose parents were very much alive when I took sannyasa, made offerings to them which are kept in Vishnu Loka until they pass away, and then they're given the Pindas. So one of our American Swamis, Swami Vidyatmananda, John Yale, he wrote in his book, A Yankee and the Swamis, that he just pictured his Protestant puritanical ancestors, their shock in dying and finding these sticky rice balls waiting for them. My father died 9 years ago, so he's already got his, and my mother just died, so she just received her sticky rice ball also. So I imagine their shock also at getting these, first of all finding themselves in Vishnu Loka, and then finding these sticky rice balls waiting for them that I offered to them back in 1979. So the intermingling in the family leads the ruiners of the family verily into hell. The forefathers of these fall down into hell because they don't receive their offerings, because of being deprived of the offerings of rice balls and water. So this is a traditional belief that the Shraddha ceremony is important. Now, for those who think that, well, these are all rites and rituals, they don't matter. Well, first of all, I would say that no, I don't believe that if your forefathers don't get, and foremothers don't get their pindas, that they're going to fall into hell. No, that depends on their karma. That's not dependent on their rites. But to think that these rites don't have any power is a mistake as well, that these rites do have power. I mentioned in my own case that before I was living at Mayavati in the Advaita Ashrama in the Himalayas when it was time for my sannyasa. And before I went, I received a letter from my father. I'd written to him telling him and my mother what I was doing. I was about to get sannyasa and what it meant. And so he wrote a pitiful letter saying that what I was doing and giving up the family and giving up the family line and giving up family traditions and all of that, much like is being described here. And so he was a Christian, not a Hindu, but he was saying that you're giving up your family dharma. He said your family religion, you're giving up your family traditions, you're giving up the family itself, and what you're doing is sin. And I weep at what you were doing. And so, of course, it was a very painful letter for me to receive because I loved my father. I was determined I was going to do it no matter what, but still to know that he felt this. So I went down to Bellarmut and went through the ceremony and then went on a long pilgrimage after that. But during the Shraddha ceremony, I thought, well, let me make all of the offerings with as much concentration and devotion and faith as I can. So at least from my side, there's no bad feeling, and that only good wishes are there for my parents and for my ancestors. That this is a time when I can ritually show it. I may feel it at other times, but now I can show it through my actions. So I did that. I did it as sincerely as I could. When I got back to Mayavati, there was another letter waiting for me from my father saying that I bless you on the new path that you have chosen, and I wish you all the best, and may God bless you, and so forth. And he never went back to that negativity which he had for the previous 9 years about what I had done. And so these things have power. The power may not be out there. No, if I had not done the Shraddha and not given the Pindas to my parents, I don't think that they would have ended up in hell. If that's the case, then everyone outside of India is in hell, whoever died, because they're not getting Pindas anywhere else. But there is a truth to the idea of making offerings to your ancestors. It does make a connection to them. And the good thoughts for your ancestors, the good thoughts for them, prayers, etc., do reach them. That there's a real connection which is established. You see in the life of Ramakrishna, when his father, before Ramakrishna was born, his father went to Gaya. And there he made the offerings to the ancestors. And so that night, after a day full of puja and offerings and everything, he was a very orthodox Brahmin. So after making all of the offerings and everything, that night he slept in the temple. I don't know how many of you have been to Gaya, but before I went, I only went a couple of years ago. I'd never been before. I went a couple of years ago with a Buddhist friend, American Buddhist friend. I took to show Bodh Gaya, but I wanted to see Gaya also. I had imagined, because Kshudi Ram had this vision in the temple, and then he slept in the temple, so I thought this big temple, like a South Indian temple, not with gopurams, but at least spacious. I got there, there's a tiny little temple. But he slept in the temple, and at night he had a vision in which his ancestors came to him, and all of his ancestors, the whole line of ancestors, were looking at him. And Gadadhar was the living Gadadhar in the temple in the vision, and his ancestors were all lined up, and they were all looking at him and smiling and telling him how pleased they were with his devotion and with his dharmic life, his righteous life. So again, these things are real. And I have Vietnamese friends, many Vietnamese friends. When I was in San Diego for many years, we had a number of Vietnamese devotees of Vedanta, initiated devotees. When I also in San Diego, we had many Vietnamese and many Persian, Iranian devotees, both. So one of the Vietnamese devotees told me that they practice ancestor worship, like the Chinese influence on the Vietnamese culture. So they made offerings to the ancestors regularly. They're sort of like a household puja or something. They would put out food offerings and things. And they said that sometimes the food offerings actually, or part of the food offerings actually disappeared. That they were actually eaten. Not by the kids in the house, but by the ancestors. And so, again, there's a truth to these things. There's a reality to it. So again, we shouldn't take it in a superstitious sense, but at the same time, we should recognize that doing something for our ancestors does have meaning. It does have a reality. So then he goes on in verse 43. Doshaire kulagnanam varna sanghara karakaihi utsadyante jati dharma kula dharmascha shashvataha. Etai doshaihi, because of these misdeeds, kulagnanam, of the destroyers, the killers of the family, the destroyers of the family, varna sankara karakaihi, those who mix up the castes, which cause intermingling of the castes. The traditional rights and duties of the castes and families are destroyed. Kula dharmaha shashvataha, the eternal family dharma, the family rights and traditions. Which are eternal, again, in the sense I said before, that they were handed down from timeless beginnings of society. Utsadyante jati dharma. The jati dharma, the practices of the caste, and the kula dharma, and the traditions of the family, utsadyante. They are destroyed. So then 44. Utsanna kula dharmanam manushyanam janardana narake niyatam vaso bhavati anushruma. So utsanna kula dharmanam manushyanam janardana narake niyatam vaso bhavati iti anushruma. We have heard, O Janardana, we have heard, Anushruma, we have heard that living in hell becomes inevitable for those persons. Narake niyatam vaso bhavati. Bhavati. That will happen, that you will live in hell, O Janardana. For who? Utsanna kula dharmanam, manushyanam, of people whose kula dharma and varna sankara has, the kula dharma has been destroyed, and whose castes have been intermingled. Aho bata mahat papam kartum vyavasita vayam yadrajya sukhalobhena handum swajanamudyataha. What a pity that we have resolved to commit a great sin by being eager to kill our own kith and kin out of greed for the pleasures of a kingdom. So again, it's the same idea. That what a sad, sad state we've come to, that we're ready to kill these people. Ready to kill these people. So again, you, those of you from India or other countries, don't, or those who came here in this generation or in recent generations, the American Civil War you all have heard of, but that was very similar to the Mahabharata War. It was a terribly devastating war, especially for the South. Of course, the South started it, but the South suffered the most because of it. And myself, having grown up in the deep South, the wounds of the war were still visible in my lifetime. 100 years later, the wounds of the war were still there. A whole generation of women in the South couldn't find husbands because 1/4 of the young men had been killed. 1/4 of the young men had been killed. And if you take 1/4 of a population of several million women, then that's a huge number of women who just couldn't find husbands because many of the men were gone, killed, both by war and by the diseases that spread during the war because of the war. And so there was this, there also, like in the Mahabharata war, brother was fighting brother, father was fighting son. Many times on one side of the battlefield was a brother, on the other side was another brother, or a father on one side, son on the other side. It was a terrible, terrible thing, which led to the destruction of society. It was not felt so much in the north, because the battles were fought in the south. And the north had a far larger population than the south did. And the south was agricultural, it was rural. The north was, much of it was industrialized, but it was a devastating thing. And still, 100 years later, there were the wounds of war were still there. And so what Arjuna is saying is not just a theory. He was basing his complaints on actual fact. That the destructive nature of war, and especially the destructive nature of a war between clans, this was very much a civil war. What a pity that we have resolved to commit a great sin by being eager to kill our own kith and kin out of greed for the pleasures of a kingdom. And then, Yadi mama pratikaram ashastram shastrapanayah dhartarashtra rane hanyus tanme kshemataram bhavet. If in this battle the sons of Dhritarashtra, armed with weapons, kill me, who am non-resistant and unarmed, that will be more beneficial to me. So here he's become a pacifist. He said that it's better that they kill me. I'm ready to be killed. I'm not going to be the author of such a destructive war. I'm not going to be the one who's the cause of the destruction of society. Let them kill me. I offer myself as a sacrifice. Let them kill me, but I'm not going to raise my arms against my kinsmen. And the last verse of the chapter, Sanjaya Vacha Evam Uktva Arjuna Sankhye Rathopastha Upavishat Visrujya Shasharam Chapam Shoka Samvigna Manasaha. So then Sanjaya takes up the narration again and says that Evam Uktva, having spoken thus, Arjuna Sankhye Rathopastha Upavishat, present there on the battlefield, in the middle of the battlefield, on the chariot, present on the chariot, Arjuna sat down. Visrujya Sasharam Chapam. He gave up his bow together with the arrows together with his bow. He threw away his bow and arrows, that which were his armaments. Shoka Sambigna Manasaha. His mind immersed in sorrow. So here Arjuna, completely overcome by sorrow, seeing the sad state of things. And of course you might think, well, he's ready to give up, so now he should be happy because now he's out of the problem. No, he knows that giving up means that he'll be killed, and many people will still be killed because they're there facing each other. So he's going to give up. He's ready to be killed. But that means that he loses everything, and others will be killed also. He's ready for that. But of course he's going to be sad. Of course his mind is sunk in sorrow because he sees what life has brought him to. This is the great dilemma that Arjuna has come to, the terrible dilemma, facing life and death, realizing that what he was going to do was going to bring about the destruction of society. And his reasons are good. His reasons are sound. His reasons are not just made up by a weak-minded person. The reasons that he gives for giving up the fight are all good reasons, that he would rather die than be the cause of the destruction of society. He would rather sacrifice himself rather than see the destruction of everything, of those that he loves. And so this is where the first chapter ends, and there's a traditional ending to the chapter, which goes, Om iti Srimad Bhagavad Gita su Upanishadsu Brahma Vidyayam Yoga Shastre Shri Krishna Arjuna Samvade Arjuna Vishara Yogo Nama Prathamodhyaya. So thus ends the first chapter, Prathamodhyaya, known as Arjuna Vishara Yogo Nama, known by the name of the sadness of Arjuna. So the first, the yoga of the sadness of Arjuna, that's significant. Each one of the 18 chapters of the Gita is known by the name such and such yoga. The next chapter 2 will be Sankhya Yoga, the yoga of philosophy, of the highest philosophy. But this one is the yoga of the sadness of Arjuna. So why is it called a yoga? It's because when the human mind, oftentimes, when the human mind is brought to its knees, when we see no way forward, when we see that everything that we've tried is not working and there's no way to go forward, then that's when we surrender to God. As long as we think that, no, I can do something myself, I don't need God. There's that story Thakur told of Shiva seated in Kailas, and Parvati sees Shiva standing up and rushing away and says, "Where are you going?" So my devotee is about to be attacked. I have to help him. So there was a devotee on earth who was being attacked by somebody with a stick. And so Shiva rushes to his aid. And then suddenly Parvati sees Shiva coming back and sitting down. So she said, "What happened? You came back so you just turned around and came back." Said, "No, I was going to help him, but then he picked up a stick to help himself. So what need was there for me?" So it's when we realize that, no, I've done everything I can do. I can't do anything more. That true surrender comes. And so this was the Vishada Yoga, the yoga of Arjuna's sadness, because he realized that he was at his wit's end. He didn't know what to do. He thought he had decided to give up, but that also was not a good option, and he knew it wasn't a good option. Again, that's why he was a mind sunk in sadness. His mind was sunk in sadness because he knew that there was no way forward. He was ready to die, but even that was not a good option. It was just the best that he could think of. And so he gives up his bow and arrow. He sinks down on the chariot. And you think of that on the battlefield. The two armies are arrayed. Arjuna had come out in the chariot full of confidence and standing right in front of Drona and Bhishma and Duryodhan and his brothers and so forth, and says, I want to see those who are desirous of fighting with me. Krishna says, see, here they are. And they've already blown their conch shells, they've already shown their valor, ready to fight. And now he's brought to the state where he collapses on the chariot. Again, all of his relatives, all of the other kings that have allied themselves with the two different sides, were all standing there ready. Arjuna's right in the middle of everything. And here he drops his bow and arrow and sinks down into the chariot. He sits down on the chariot. Not that there was a chair or a bench on the chariot. No, such chariots were war chariots. There were no seats, even for Krishna, there was not a seat. He's often pictured seated driving horses like this, but chariots weren't like that. The war chariots were like the Roman war chariots, as Swami Vivekananda said. They were the chariots of the Aryans who stretched from India all the way up into Europe. And so there was a similar type of chariot all through the war chariot all through that area. They weren't horse carriages for transportation. They were for fighting. And so you're meant to stand in them, no place to sit. But Arjuna just slumps down onto the floorboard of the chariot. And so thus ends the first chapter. Let me see if there's a question, one or two, and then yes, Sanchali. Oh, he's going to give you a microphone.
I'm having a problem reconciling with verse 41.
With verse 21?
41. 41. Where it says, when vice predominates, the women of the family become corrupt.
Oh, Oh, Krishna, when vice predominates, the women of the family become corrupt. Oh, descendant of the Vrishnis, when women become corrupted, it results in the intermingling of caste. Now, let me ask, what part of it that is a problem?
Why is it pinpointing is that women becoming corrupt? Vice is huge.
Yes.
So many different vices.
There's so many different vices, again, it's because, and this was traditional thought, but I think that there's a reason for that traditional thought, that women have it's not that they have a greater responsibility, they have greater power. They have greater power in society. Now, in society all over the world, with rare exceptions, there's been patriarchy for thousands of years. Not always in history, not in all places, but for thousands of years and almost everywhere it's been patriarchy. And so men have been in control, and men have dominated, men have told women what they're to do, etc. And so women were definitely in a subsidiary position. But it was also recognized that the real strength lies with the woman, and especially the strength of the family. And so if if the women are not strong, then the family itself becomes weak. And so it was recognition of the strength and the importance of women to human society. Now, does that mean that therefore women should not be allowed to get a divorce if they're in a bad relationship or something and things like that? Old society said yes, all over the world, and the Western society also. Even when I was a kid, I had one aunt who got a divorce, and it was the shame of the family, and so nobody would talk about it. This was back in the 50s. Do I think that was the shame of the family? No. There's certainly, it should be easier for people than it was traditionally to get out of an abusive relationship. That should certainly be easier. So, I'm not supporting the old strictures of society that said under no circumstances the woman should just bear it even if the husband beats her and all of that. No, I don't believe that. That's my own belief. I'm not speaking for the Ramakrishna Mission. I'm not speaking for the institution of sannyasa or anything else. I'm speaking just for myself. But at the same time, I recognize that women have a superior position in society, in culture, and in tradition. You find that it's women who carry on traditions more than men. Men give up the traditions very easily and take up to new things. Women continue with traditions much longer. And so a woman has an extremely important place in the preservation of tradition and the preservation of the strength of society and the preservation of the family. Because, again, the family is the basic unit of society. It's not the individual. In modern times, we've tried to make the unit of society the individual. There was a song that was popular in the 60s when I was growing up, a teenager, that I and other friends of mine used to love. It was practically our theme song, and that was, "It's my life and I'll do what I want." So we all thought, yes, it's my life and I'll do what I want. Nobody's going to tell me what to do. My parents aren't going to tell me what to do. Teachers are not going to tell me what to do. The state is not going to tell me what to do. I will do whatever I want.
There's a Bengali song these days.
Oh, there's a big... Oh, yes, say same thing, same idea, yes, same idea.
So could it also be due to the fact that the Aryan society is a matriarchal society? So since women are, at the head, so that is why, stress was given to women.
That might be, but I think it was just a recognition of a common psychological. It's recognized in societies around the world that women have a superior position. That's why men are afraid of women. That's why the patriarchy was established, to keep women under control. That's why, and not picking on Muslim countries, but because it's an example we see in front of us where the tradition is still very strong of patriarchy. Why in Muslim countries, in conservative Muslim countries, they want to keep women from driving, they want to keep women from voting and everything. Why? If women were weak and powerless and everything else, you wouldn't need to control them. Let them do whatever they want to. We can control them the way. It's because women are powerful, because women wield more power in society potentially than men, that men have pushed women down to affirm their own power. And so I think this is my interpretation. I'm not saying that this is the interpretation, but my interpretation is that it's because of the worldwide recognition of the power of women and the natural superior position of women. All of us recognized when I was in school, all of us recognized that the girls were far smarter than the boys. Now, there was a time when the girls and boys in American society, when they started getting interested in each other and so forth, and then girls were expected to start giving up competitive schooling and so forth, and they were expected to be subservient and not to outshine the boys because you're not going to get a husband that way. But until that time, everybody recognized that the girls were far smarter than the boys. And it was a common known fact, not talked about, but commonly recognized. And so I think that's the reason, and that's the reason for the patriarchy. One reason for patriarchy was that society was very violent, and women needed physical protection. But the other reason why women were actually pushed down, it's one thing to protect. Yeah, that's not pushing down, that's protecting. But the reason why women were pushed down was because it was recognized that they are too powerful. So, yes, Hector, one more question. This will be the last question because it's already late.
This is kind of like a response to your question about women. My father, he was born in 1923, and in Mexico. So when the World War II came along, a lot of men went to war.
Yes.
And the United States had a program called the Bracero program, where they recruited Latinos to work the fields, to work the roads, the construction, because there was very little men.
Yes.
And my dad had an opportunity to witness hangings of black people and Latinos, and due to the fact that women liked them. But the older generation liked them physically.
Yes.
And obviously the older men who couldn't go to war, the priest, not the priest, the southern mentality of racism, basically. They hung them.
Yeah,
but it's more of a the power, like you said. They saw the soldiers went away, the women were the head, and the blacks and the Latinos workers were subservient.
Yes.
And nature is nature, and like the old saying, when the cat's away, the mice will play.
Yes.
And so I can see why Arjuna thought about the women and then the mice of women, going astray and like that. And I saw that from my dad's point of view when he told us that story.
Yeah,
because he was an old man. I'm the youngest of the family, and like I said, he was born in 1923, and he came to the United States as a bracero, which is like that. And that's kind of like an answer. I don't know.
Well, no, that was true.
And that's in the 20th century.
Yes.
But it was in the southern.
It went much later in the 20th century, even than that also. Yes. Well, yes. That time is we've gone over time again. So let me stop here, and I'll give a closing chat. Well, first announcements. On Thursday, we'll have the morning class at 11 a.m. on the life of Sri Ramakrishna. And then Sunday, we will have a lecture on why don't we see the truth? That is, why don't we see spiritual truth? That which is real, why is it hidden from us? Why can't we realize the truth? So let me give a closing. Oh, that's right. This Saturday is Ramnam. Yes, the first Saturday is Ramnam. Yes. And so that is usually at 6:30? 6 o'clock Ramnam. Everyone is invited to that. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Tat Sat Shri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu. That infinite being is full. This relative universe is full, perfect, and complete. From out of the fullness of that infinite being, the fullness of this universe has come. And yet that being remains ever the same. Om, peace, peace, peace be unto us and to all the beings of the universe.